U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday again condemned civil rights protests in Portland, Oregon, decrying what he described as violence in, quote, Democrat-run cities. Portland saw clashes through the weekend between local demonstrators and federal agents who sometimes donned military fatigues without agency identification. The federal crackdown drew a backlash from state and city officials and even from a group of mothers, some pregnant, who came out in masks and protective headgear, locked arms, and shouted, "Feds stay clear, the moms are here."
Feds stay clear, the moms are here.
Their actions are terrifying. I mean, we as a democracy, and we need to stand up. I'm 60 years old. I probably shouldn't be here in public, but this is beyond acceptable.
Oregon's governor and Portland's mayor, both Democrats, called the administration's move an abuse of power, and the state filed a lawsuit against the U.S. agencies involved. Trump did not back down on Sunday, tweeting, "We are trying to help Portland, not hurt it. Their leadership has, for months, lost control of the anarchists and agitators. They are missing in action. We must protect federal property and our people." In an interview on Fox News Sunday, Trump attributed the increase in violence in cities such as Chicago and New York by saying, quote, "They're Democrat-run cities. They are liberally run. They are stupidly run." White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows on Fox News' Sunday Morning Future show said the administration is working on measures to further counter national unrest and that, quote, "You'll see something rolled out this week." The announcement is expected to expand a Justice Department initiative that sends federal law enforcement into cities facing protests. Meanwhile, House Democrats asked the internal watchdogs for the Justice and Homeland Security Departments to launch an investigation into whether they have, quote, "abused emergency authorities in order to justify targeting peaceful protesters in Portland."
Fill us in on that.
Depends on what your definition of troops is.
Can you fill us in on that?
Depends on what your definition of troops is. We're sending law enforcement. Portland was totally out of control. The Democrats, the liberal Democrats running the place, had no idea what they were doing. They were ripping down for 51 days, ripping down that city, destroying the city, looting it. The level of corruption and what was going on there is incredible. And then the governor comes, "Oh, we don't need any help." How about Chicago? I read the numbers were many people killed over the weekend. We're looking at Chicago too. We're looking at New York. Look at what's going on. All run by Democrats, all run by very liberal Democrats, all run really by radical left. More federal law enforcement, that I can tell you. In Portland, they've done a fantastic job. They've been there 3 days. And they really have done a fantastic job in a very short period of time. No problem. They grab them, a lot of people in jail. They're leaders. These are anarchists. These are not protesters. People say protesters. These people are anarchists. These are people that hate our country. And we're not going to let it go forward. And I'll tell you what, the governor and the mayor and the senators out there, they're afraid of these people. That's the reason they don't want us to help them. They're afraid. I really believe they're actually maybe even physically afraid of these people.
After violent weekend clashes between anti-racism demonstrators and federal agents in Portland, Oregon,
we're sending law enforcement.
President Donald Trump on Monday told reporters that he plans to send more federal law enforcement agents to some major U.S. cities where protests have flared, noting the cities' mayors are Democrats.
Well, I'm going to do something that I can tell you. Because we're not going to let New York and Chicago and Philadelphia, Detroit and Baltimore and all of these, Oakland is a mess. We're not going to let this happen in our country. All run by liberal Democrats.
More federal law enforcement to some of these cities?
More federal law enforcement, that I can tell you.
Federal officers last week began cracking down on Portland protests against police brutality and systematic racism, with unidentified officers in camouflage using tear gas to disperse crowds and using unmarked cars to take some activists into custody without explanation. About 1,500 demonstrators gathered Sunday night outside the federal courthouse, including a group of mothers dressed in yellow shirts, linking arms with other protesters. Police said protesters started a fire within a portico of the courthouse and knocked down sections of a large steel fence that was constructed around the building until they were sprayed with tear gas by federal agents. The clampdown has sparked national outcry and legal challenges. Oregon's Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum filed a lawsuit claiming federal agents had seized and detained people without probable cause.
Every American needs to be concerned about what's happening here in Portland. These federal agencies are operating with no transparency and against the will of just about every leader in our state, and I assume it will be the same in other states.
Despite widespread criticism over the tactics, top Department of Homeland Security officials on Monday said they would not apologize and would not back down. Rhetoric in line with Trump's plans for more federal reinforcements.